3 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. We are here together today to learn about proposals for minor variance to the zoning bylaw and applications for consent applying to certain lands in the municipality of Meaford. I will start by introducing members of this Committee of Adjustment and staff. I am Deborah Young, Committee Chair. Our Vice Chair is Linda Van Alst. We also have Terry Williams, Lynn Whitbeck, and Ed Ormsby, who are members of this committee as well. For staff, we have Kirsten Morris, who is the Secretary-Treasurer for this committee and planner. Other staff in attendance include Senior Planner Margaret Potter and Helena Fascinato, who is the Vice Secretary-Treasurer and Development Services Assistant. While this committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the county and local official plans, the Planning Act and municipal policy and procedures encourage us to reach out to you, members of this committee, to hear your thoughts about the proposed applications. Your constructive comments will help us learn more about our neighborhood, which in turn will help us make informed decisions. Those who are pre-registered for today's meeting will have an opportunity to speak. You do not have to be solely in support or opposition. It is okay to share your thoughts about those elements that you do or don't like about the proposal and to ask questions as well. While the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions and comments raised, in some cases we may need to have staff carry out research on the matters raised and provide answers or additional comments, additional information to you following the meeting. Anyone who wishes to receive notice of any decision on any of the applications being heard today need to contact the Secretary-Treasurer by email at planning@meaford.ca or by phone at 519-538-1060, extension 1119, to have their contact information added to the file for future notices. So, does anybody on the committee have a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, the adoption of previous minutes. May I have a mover and someone to second? Linda Van Alst, Lynn Whitbeck. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Business arising from previous minutes. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go on to the public meetings. So the first public meeting This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act, Plan 309, Lot 1329, Reference Plan 16R-11393, Part 1, in the former town of Meaford, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days' notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200-69 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days' notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on September 9th, 2021, giving more than the required 10 days notice.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
So application A11, 2021 requests a variance to facilitate construction of a new dwelling on the property. The application requests relief from Table 6.2.1 of Zoning Bylaw 60/2009, which requires a minimum front and rear yard setback of 7.5 meters. Application A1121 requests that the front yard setback be reduced from 7.5 meters to 6 meters, and the rear yard setback be reduced from 7.5 meters to 4.2 meters for the main dwelling. These variances will facilitate construction of a new single-story dwelling. And then for comments received, so comments were received from Grey County, who generally had no concerns with the application. Comments were also received from Grey Sauble, who had no objection as the property is not currently regulated by them. Nearby property owner Russell Sorchetti had no concerns with the application. And then resident Norm Glass noted their concerns with the variance if the dwelling is higher than a single story. Norm also noted that the stairs to the basement are adjacent to his property and questioned if the house would be used as a rental unit. And that's all for comments.
Thank you. Kirsten, do you have any additional comments about this file?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. So this application is proposing to build a new single detached dwelling on a residential lot at a reduced front and rear yard setback, which Helena has described, in order to accommodate a one-story dwelling to fit in with the general character of the adjacent houses and to provide the amount of living space required by the applicant. So it's our opinion that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. It maintains the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, as it would allow for construction of a dwelling on a lot identified for residential use. We've noted in the staff report that the size and the shape of the lots on Thompson Street are not exactly uniform, and the other homes on the street appear to be located closer to the front lot line than the 7.5 meter setback required by the bylaw. So it's our opinion that the reduction in setback wouldn't be out of place with adjacent properties. The applicant had staked out the property to show the approximate location of the new house, and it does appear that the front yard setback will be close to the setback for the corner house on Thompson and William Street. We don't expect that the reduced setback will make the house appear to stick out in that regard. We've also noted that the covered porch at the 6 meter setback will help to soften the facade, while the 6 meter setback provides sufficient space for parking, meeting the intent of the zoning bylaw. We've noted in the report that the side yard setbacks are larger than what is required by the bylaw, which provides extra space for amenity area with the space taken away from the rear yard and provides appropriate drainage and separation from the adjacent homes on the sides. We're recommending as a condition that the variance apply to the first story of the house only, and that any future renovations will need to be in compliance with the zoning bylaw at that time. Limiting the dwelling to 1 story helps mitigate any potential privacy impacts to neighboring yards by the reduced setbacks, and also addresses the comment received from the neighboring property owner. It's our opinion that the requested variances to permit construction of a 1-story dwelling would be lesser in impact than if a 2 or 3 story dwelling were to be built on the lot, as it would appear to stick out more on the street based off of the character of the adjacent properties and the homes. And then just in response to the second part of Mr. Glass's comment about the potential for a basement apartment off the side of the proposed house, I had responded to Mr. Glass and indicated that I wasn't aware of the applicant's plans to renovate the basement into a secondary apartment. However, the bylaw does allow one secondary rental unit to be located in the basement of a home, subject to the bylaw standards and parking standards, which would be evaluated at the time of building permit if that was something that the applicant wanted to do. And it's really out of the scope of the variance request before us today. Other than that, I'm happy to address any questions.
Thank you. Now, each member of the committee has visited the subject land. Does any member of the committee have a comment with respect to their site visit or with respect to the application? Ed.
Madam Chairman, if I remember correctly, there was an issue when we tried to get this lot severed to start with, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. So when the lot was severed and created, I believe this was the severed lot. I don't think it matters, but the house that was taken off of the lot on the corner, they had to apply for a variance to reduce their rear yard setback, because when they severed the when they surveyed the severed lot, it didn't quite meet the zone standard for area. So in order to keep it 450 meters squared, which is required by the bylaw, the applicant at that time, so the previous owner, had requested a variance to reduce the rear yard setback by, I think, if just a few centimeters, so it would meet that standard for the severed lot.
So it's gonna make for a smaller house on the lot regardless.
That's correct, yeah.
Does anyone else, Lynn?
Through the chair, can you just explain what you mean by if you build a second story, it has to conform to the zoning bylaws in place at the time?
Yeah, so basically what we're saying is the variance that is being requested right now only applies to one story of the dwelling. If they want to, in the future, put a second story on, the second story would have to be set back 7.5 meters from the rear yard and 7.5 meters from the front yard, or they'd have to go through another planning process, like to get another variance to allow a second story at the same 6-meter front yard setback and 4-meter rear yard setback.
Does that answer your question, Lynn?
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Does anybody in this audience wish to make a comment? Okay, are there any virtual comments?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Norm Glass. I am the concerned owner next door. But let me qualify that I'm not overly concerned. Just a couple of questions. Do we know if the application is done by the actual potential homeowner, or are they building this for resale?
Who can answer that question? Does anyone know?
Sorry, Norm, were you asking if the dwelling was going to be for, like, owned by the homeowner or for sale? Is that?
Yeah, no, who's building the home? Is the actual homeowner building it, or is it like a contractor that's building it on spec?
The applicant is Revel Ridge. I don't know if they are here today. They might be able to answer that question. Thank you.
There seems, there's a person who's going to answer it. Please state your name before you.
Okay, hey, my name is Connor. Nice to see everybody here today. I am the owner of that lot. I also own a framing company. We frame Meaford, Collingwood, Blue Mountain. We have no intention of selling this house after it's built. I will be owning it, and no intention of selling. So, yeah, that should answer that question.
Thank you.
So, Connor, are you owning it to live in, or are you owning it to rent out?
That's to be considered. There's a chance me and my family, or my wife and child, will live there. We haven't gone that far yet. We'll have to see what the housing market does. We do intend to possibly rent out the basement if possible, but I can assure you that the house will be maintained nicely and always looking good, and that you won't have any bad tenants down there should we decide to go that route.
All right, well, thank you for that reassurance. So based on that and my notes here, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Glass.
You're welcome.
You may continue watching if you wish.
I can't see anything. I've just got a black screen. I don't know why, but I'm listening to you.
Good. Glad to hear it. Are there any other questions to be raised at this time by anyone? Okay. Helena, would you please provide us with a suggested decision and conditions of the variance?
Yep, so decision A1121 will read, being that the 4 tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves a variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from table 6.2.1 of bylaw 60-2009 as amended to reduce the required front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 6 meters and to reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 4.2 meters, subject to the following condition: that the reduction to the required front and rear yard setback shall apply to the first story only, and that any future additions or expansions above the first story shall comply with the standards of the zoning bylaw in force and effect at that time.
Okay, may I ask for a mover, please?
I can do that.
Lynn? And Ed is going to second. Now, are there any further questions or comments? We use this time, please, madam, come up to the microphone and state your name. We'd like to take this time to make sure all the questions are answered or concerns so that we can vote on it with all the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dina Lewin. I live at 128 Margaret Street. And my only concern is the fact that there will be an extension of the sewer line.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
I'm going back to 97.
I think we're just talking about a different application right now. So the application that you're speaking of is going to be the fourth application on the list.
Oh, so we're going further down the line.
Yeah, there's a little bit longer to wait before the application. Sorry.
Quite
I
all
don't
right.
know how long. I've got a couple of dogs loose in the house.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It will be very long now.
So there are 2 applications before. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this application? Hearing none, are there any questions from the committee? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of this proposal? Passed.
And we get to sign a sheet.
Oh, yeah, I get to sign them now. So, Helena, would you please explain what happens next
Everybody have a...
Yep.
for this application?
So notice of decision for this application will go out later on this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period.
I'm already up.
Thank you, Kirsten. Okay, we'll go on to the next public meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act, Plan 309, Lot 509 Union, known municipally as 52 Blake Street in the former town of Meaford, now in the municipality of Meaford. This requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days' notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200-96 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days' notice.
So this notice was published on September 9th, 2021, giving more than the required 10 days notice.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
So application A12 2021, requests a variance to the existing zoning to facilitate construction of a new dwelling on the property. The application requests relief from provision 9.281.1B, which requires that the detached dwelling is located only within the area zoned R1 281B, said envelope being not nearer than 5 meters to the south lot line, not nearer than 1.5 meters to the east lot line, and measuring 26 meters wide east to west, east/west, and 13.8 meters deep north/south. Application A1221 requests that the north-south depth of the building envelope be increased from 13.8 meters to 16.2 meters, which would allow the dwelling and porch to encroach outside of the envelope by 2.4 meters. The application also requests that the attached garage be permitted to encroach 0.5 meters outside of the north end of the envelope as shown on the drawing submitted with the application and included on the second page of the notice. This variance would facilitate construction of a new one-story, three-bedroom house in order to accommodate the applicant's spacing needs. So for comments received, so Grey County commented that provided adequate servicing is available for the proposed development, they have no concerns. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority had generally no concerns with the application. And nearby property owners Leanne and David Simmons noted that they are concerned with where the water runoff and drainage is going to be directed, and that flooding of other people's properties could become an issue. And that's all for comments received.
Thank you. Kirsten, do you have any further comments?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. This property has been subject to a couple of past applications that you might remember. One was a severance. The house was severed off of the lot, I think in 2019. And then the second was a zoning bylaw amendment, which establishes the current building envelope on the property. So the building envelope was established to allow the owner to build a new house on the lot while not biasing against future development of the balance of the lands, as it is flagged by the official plan for future development. The envelope was based off of a survey, which was spaced in order to permit the potential for a future 20-meter road allowance to be extended from Blake Street if that was ever to happen. And after designing the house, the applicant found that their design would not fit in the permitted building envelope, and they're requesting that the new house be permitted to encroach 2.4 meters outside of the building envelope in order to build a one-story home with enough living space for their family. We don't expect that the proposed variance will have much of an impact on neighboring properties and will not bias against future development of the entire property, being that a 5.7 meter setback can be maintained from the conceptual road allowance if Blake Street were ever to be extended. And just in response to the Simmons comments regarding their drainage concerns, I had responded to them and indicated that the municipality's grading and drainage bylaw applies at time of building permit and requires that any new dwelling needs to show through an engineered grading and drainage plan that the new house will not negatively affect the drainage of adjacent properties. And I clarified that the grading and drainage plan submitted with this application does show water to be directed away from the house and out towards Blake Street, not onto adjacent properties. And one other thing I did want to clarify, because I've had some questions from residents recently, that they're not proposing an additional dwelling on the property. It's just one house that is being proposed, which is permitted by the current zoning. They're just requesting that that building envelope be extended a little bit to the north for their new house. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Each member of the committee has visited the subject lands. Does any member of the committee have a question or comment with respect to their site visit or with respect to the application? Terry.
Just one question. How close is the proposed garage to the neighbor's property?
I can see on the...
Because I couldn't see it anywhere.
So the building envelope is permitted to be 1.5 meters, I believe. Is it, Margaret? From the side lot line. But yeah, that dimension is not shown.
So they're proposing it only be 1 meter now?
No, it's farther than, so the building So the building envelope is permitted to be 1.5 meters from that side lot line. So that's what's allowed. And that garage is shown as farther than 1.5 meters from the
Another
side lot
half
line.
meter.
But I don't know exactly how much.
Are there any other questions or comments? Lynn?
To the chair, sorry, I don't understand what you just said, but it being further, I mean, closer to lot line or further away?
So the building envelope that they're allowed to build in is 1.5 meters from the side lot line, and it's 26 meters wide. And then 5 meters from the south lot line and 13.8 meters, so it's like a square. And they have the garage sited further away than 1.5 meters from the side lot line. Does,
Okay.
Margaret, please.
yeah.
I thought I had printed off a zoom in and I didn't, so my apologies for that. But, so I'm struggling to read this too. However, what I can confirm is that what they're requesting is going closer to the interior of the overall lot, not closer to any of the neighbors. So the variance that is before you today doesn't affect the distance to neighboring property lines. It affects the building envelope interior to the rest of the site towards where future development may go. So towards, if there were an extension of Blake Street, what would be the extension of Blake Street? Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Does that satisfy your question?
But I have another question. So,
Yes, go ahead.
so we did, was the council who did this, establish the building envelope?
Yeah.
So did they not have a house at that time? Like, why didn't this come up when the building envelope was being established?
That's a good question. I don't think they had the house designed at that time. The building envelope was based off of what their planner had submitted. And that was the dimensions that they thought were going to be good at that time. And yeah, so now the house doesn't appear to fit in what the permitted building envelope was approved for.
So how is this going to impact the future? Are we going to have to revisit this site again to get another variance because they've already encroached into the?
So there is no development proposal for the remainder of the lands. It was based off of a concept that was provided by their planner at that time. So in our opinion, the extension of the 2.4 meters outside of the permitted building envelope for this new house does not take away from the remainder of the property being able to be developed in the future.
I guess what I mean is they had a plan. The planner had a plan, and they had this envelope to build in because it allowed for the maximum density in the rest of it. So now you've eliminated some of that because you've increased the building envelope. So how is that going to impact the future development of this other property?
Margaret, are you able to help with that one?
Margaret.
Thank you.
I think I can. So I read over the history in terms of the previous staff report and the staff report by the planner at that time. And what appeared to be key is the ability of Blake Street to be extended. So it would come down in an L shape was what was perceived at the time of the site-specific zoning amendment. And the building envelope was sketched kind of a trapezoidal shape, which is shown in here. And what was key to me when I was looking at the application is that in addition to the envelope, they specified setbacks, including setbacks to the future 20-meter right-of-way of Blake Street if it were to come down. And all of those setbacks, even the interior ones to a potential future Blake Street, are being maintained by this. So they're still keeping the building 5.7 meters away from future Blake Street. The if I can direct, if anybody has their agenda with them, I can direct you to page 51 of the overall agenda. which shows a theoretical home. So showing, they were able to show at that time that a home could exist within a specific area. Now that site sketch was at the time of the previous zoning. So that's not what you're being asked for today, but what's important on that sketch is that it shows a 20-meter right-of-way of a potential future Blake Street. And what the site-specific zoning was writing was, it was drawing an envelope, so a trapezoid around that theoretical home, but also specifies the setbacks that you see there. And what they're asking for now goes a little bit closer to that elbow of Blake Street than the envelope, but still maintains that 5 meters. So they're not getting closer than the setback that is theoretically proposed to Blake Street. It's just that they are outside or extending past the envelope. So the envelope was drawn quite specifically as a trapezoid around that theoretical home, and the new site-specific design has some bump outs to the north. So in our opinion, it wouldn't bias against the future development because it's maintaining those setbacks to Blake Street. There is a recommendation about the driveway that would help in that regard as well, so that the driveway parking area wouldn't be on that right-of-way. But in our opinion, it wouldn't bias against the future development. It's not going towards where other new lots might be.
Is that satisfactory?
Thank you.
Okay. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. There was a gentleman I saw.
I think she answered it.
Oh, okay.
If you are satisfied, that's
Okay.
okay. If you have any questions, then I can answer.
Is there anyone virtually want to speak to this? All right. So there's no one who wants to speak to this virtually. Helena, please provide with please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of the variance, please.
So decision A1221 will read, being that the four tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves the variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from provision 9.281.1b of bylaw 60-2009 as amended to A, increase the north-south depth of the building envelope from 13.8 meters as identified in exception 9.281.1b to 16.2 meters, allowing the dwelling to encroach 2.4 meters outside of the north end of the building envelope, and the attached garage to encroach outside of the north end of building envelope by 0.5 meters, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the proposed dwelling be sited substantially as shown on the lot grading plan by Tatham Engineering, dated August 2021, and submitted with minor variance application A1221, and maintaining all other setbacks established in exception 9.281.1b. And 2, that the driveway be limited to a maximum of 4 meters in width from Blake Street to the southerly boundary of the 20-meter setback for future development shown on the lot grading plan by Tatham Engineering dated August 2021, so as not to establish any bias against future development of a road in this location.
Thank you. I now call for a motion on the decision as read by Helena. Terry is moving. And Lynn, seconder. Okay. Is there any further questions or comments about this proposal? Hearing none, I now call for the vote of the Committee of Adjustment. Those in favor? Carried. Elena, please explain what happens next.
Yep, so notice of decision will go out later this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period for the application.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christian.
Okay, the third meeting, public meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding Concession 3, Part Lot 3, Reference Plan 16R-3286, Part 3, known municipally as 066506, 4th Side Road in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days' notice as prescribed by Section 53, subsection 5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days' notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on September 8th, 2021, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received during this, concerning this proposal?
So application B2621 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land of approximately 1.46 hectares, roughly 3.61 acres in size, with approximately 137 meters of frontage on 4th Side Road. The retained parcel of vacant land will be added to the abutting parcel with existing dwelling in order to facilitate an enlargement of that parcel and to situate the environmentally protected lands associated with Grier Creek on one property with the goal of continued conservation of those lands and habitat. For comments received, the Municipal Building Department noted that there is no record of an existing septic system on the lands and that there are no concerns at this time. The Municipal Transportation Services commented that an entrance will be permitted for this lot creation. Grey County generally had no comments or concerns, provided that MDS can be achieved for the severed parcel. The retained lands are added to lands to the west, and that positive comments are received from the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority regarding the significant woodlands, streams, and hazard lands. And then Grey Sauble
Management plan. In staff's opinion, the official plan policies have been addressed and would support the approval of the subject application, being that no new building lot is being created, as the retained parcel will be added over to the adjacent lot. And further, the lot will be larger than 0.8 hectares in size as required by the policy. An entrance would be available as indicated by Transportation Services, and Grey Sauble has indicated that they don't have any concerns. In regards to the comment received from the neighboring property owner regarding the fact that they use an access across the proposed severed parcel to access their farm, we have indicated that this is really a matter between two private property owners to decide on how they want to proceed. We have not been made aware of any legal agreement or easement in place for this farm access, although we do understand and are sympathetic to the fact that the proposal may result in a change to the existing access. It will not result in any landlocked parcels or unusable parcels of land. It's our opinion that the farm access is a separate issue to that of the consent, and are recommending approval of the current application as originally proposed and confirmed by the applicant after receiving comments. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, each member of the committee has visited the subject lands. Does any member of the committee have a comment with respect to these, to their site visit or to the proposal in general? Ed?
Through the chair. When you look at the property, it says that the roads department has approved a access. Did they say where on that lot?
No, I think in their comments, they were saying that the new, like the proposed severed parcel, there would be an entrance available. They haven't actually approved an entrance.
Is it when you, I don't know whether other committee members, when you go there, like it's on a knoll, eh? So there's a bit of a blind spot.
Yes.
That's why I was wondering, where have they, on that lot, where have they approved access and you don't know that?
My understanding is they haven't actually approved a specific location yet, but based off of the severance sketch that was provided, they're saying that an entrance could be available somewhere in that frontage.
Okay, I have a comment about that. If that's the case, then the parcel that, I think one of the landowners is here today, a neighboring landowner. If this parcel that, in the comment, is going to be landlocked because this access is going to be removed, there shouldn't be any reason why another access couldn't be granted to that property, because there's far better sight line than what there is on what the property that am I confusing you?
Yeah, sorry. Can you show me on the
Yeah, definitely.
sketch?
When you look at the property, standing at the road looking at the property, you look down 450 feet,
Yeah.
and that's, and somewhere in there, they're going to give an access to the lot. And I have no trouble with lot line adjustments. I think this is an excellent idea, by the way. But if we're going to landlock a piece of property beside, if they're going to approve a driveway on that property,
Yep.
they should be able to get access to this landlocked piece of property
Yes.
as far as sight line goes.
Yes.
What has to take place in order to get that approved?
So that would be the entrance permitting process. They'd have to go through transportation to get an additional access to the farm parcel for their farm access.
I think you can see what I mean, because there's far better sight line to the east than there is.
Yeah,
to
and
the
I
west.
think we don't see there being any issues with another entrance being available to that property.
Okay. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Does anybody else have a question? No? Okay. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Is this the proposal that this woman wishes to speak to?
No, next.
This the next one? Okay.
Yeah, you can come up to the microphone if you like.
Oh, yes.
Yep, I believe so. Yep. Can you turn that mic on? Sorry.
May I remove my mask?
Yes.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Madam Chair, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Andrew Leach, and I own the property and live on the property that abuts this proposal on the eastern side, on the eastern fence line. I have lived there for 25 years, and the fields in question have been looked after by a local farmer who is also present today, and he can answer any questions or make his comments after mine. When we purchased this land 25 years ago and the property, I was offered the property next door. That's the one in question, I think it's part 4, isn't it, or part 3. And as a result of that, I wanted to see exactly what would be allowed and not allowed. And I went to the Township of St Vincent offices and spoke to the clerk, Mr. Jim Foster. And he indicated to me that upon purchase of that land, it would be attached to the land that I already owned. And in no uncertain terms, he said there would be no severance to that land. Jim had a way of words. As a result of that, I contacted my lawyer who handled the purchase, who just so happened to be a boundaries and fence line dispute adjudicator for the province. And he confirmed what Jim Foster had told me, the clerk of St Vincent Township. No severance once that was attached to my land. As a result, I didn't purchase it. Earlier this summer, 2 signs went up on Frogs Hollow Sideroad in front of this property that indicated 6 acres for sale, coming soon. And I went into the town offices here in Meaford and spoke to planner, and Kirsten was Kirsten called me back a couple of days later and filled me in. She at that time she said she had no idea that an application was there, and that there could not be a severance in those circumstances. There was no mention of attachment when we spoke. She did say that any change to that 6 parcels of land on a 100-acre farm would indeed impact the official plan, and that she would have to do a detailed report to council for any amendments and for council agreement. A couple of days later, those signs came down. My question is, if that land can be attached, why hasn't it been? If severance can be given prior to any effort to attach, how does that work when we've been told that it can't be severed beforehand? And any attachment should be made first, in my opinion, before an application for severance. My opinion. So my concerns in the decision would be landlocking prime farmland. This farmland has produced award-winning crops. So we have to go into the history of this piece of property. The farm laneway has been used for over 100 years for farm equipment to get onto the parcel of land. Successive owners of the property have given permission to the farmer to access the laneway, which is not a very good piece of laneway as you either enter or exit onto Frogs Hollow Side Road. The access is usually done for about 4 to 8 times a year. The laneway is about 200 feet long. So for about 8 minutes a year, that is all that driveway is used by farm equipment getting onto the land. There would be no guarantee the owner of the severed land or future owners of the severed lands could continue or would continue to allow access. Now, the proponent, who's here today, has been most gracious in allowing the farmer to use that laneway for the past dozen or so years. My question is, will the proponent of the application and or the municipality provide access to the landlocked farmland? We don't know what the planning department will actually say, or rather the transportation department will actually say. And will it be allowed further along the side road? You've indicated, Ed has indicated, as you have, that there are the access to the proposal would be moved further to the west, and it's possible that the access to the land that I own could be moved further to the right. As you and I spoke on the phone last Wednesday, I did indicate to you that I would have no issue at all whatsoever. And if the land was moved, or if the severance was moved 30 feet to the west, that allows that laneway, still under the control of the proponent, to access the back of his property on this side of the creek, and also for the farmer to use it for the 6 to 8 minutes a year that he currently uses it. Frogs Hollow has changed over the years. When I first moved here, we had a rush minute. That doesn't exist anymore. It's about a 45-minute rush hour. It's the only paved municipal road from the east, from the Blue Mountains. It is now a bypass. If anything happens on Highway 26, Frogs Hollow becomes bumper to bumper. There are school buses now using it, as opposed to when the school was located north of Highway 26. Now that it's located south of 26, they use Frogs Hollow as the shortcut. It used to be the only thing you saw was the milk truck, the odd worker going to work first thing in the morning and later in the afternoon, and the usual pelotons that would go by Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday. They still try and negotiate it, even with the traffic being so heavy. So you have to make a decision based on the Act and the history, the legality and the official plan. All I'm asking for after 25 years as a resident in this community and those lands being looked after, that some consideration should be given to us and to the farmer who has diligently looked after the property for the last 25 years, for me. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Leach? Does anyone wish to speak to this? Kirsten or Margaret? Do you have any further comments?
Do you want to respond and then I can jump in after, or?
Margaret,
If I
please.
may, through you, Madam Chair, ask Mr. Leach just to clarify what he meant by attachment, just so that I'm clear. When you were mentioning attachment of lands, what were you meaning by that?
If I purchased the land,
Yes.
attachment would mean that land would be joined with the land I already owned immediately. That's what Clerk Jim Foster said. That was concurred by the lawyer who was an adjudicator for the province on land disputes. So that's what that meant to me. And at that time, that would have added the whole of that parcel to mine, and the clerk and the lawyer were very, very forceful in saying no severance.
Okay, does that answer your questions, or do you
It
want to go?
does, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'd like me to expand any further, I can. But
I would appreciate it, please.
So we did do a little bit of digging, and it appears, based on the date of an R plan that was able to be found, that both parcels that we're talking about, so the applicant's parcel and Mr. Leach's parcel, were created in 1988. And the lot line between those two parcels already exists. So the access is already on a different piece of property based on the best information that we have. And in terms of whether a severance would or wouldn't be possible, in one respect, that's why we're before the committee today. It's not something that just gets signed off at the office, but we come before the committee, or the applicants come before the committee for that question. But also, I believe Kirsten summarized quite well that the term severance in this case, really the remnant parcel is getting added to the neighboring parcel. So it's a boundary adjustment in terms of no new lot is being created. There's not going to be an additional lot to the number of lots that are already there. And that was something that was specifically mentioned in the Grey County comments in their details, but in the end they had no objection because it's not an additional lot being created in this area. So the applicant, one benefit, and I can't speak for the way that they've structured their application, but one benefit of structuring an application to identify a severed parcel is that that corner lot gets its own parcel transfer document or deed that gets stamped, and so it's very specific at the registry office. So in this case, as no additional lot is being created, I have a reference plan in front of me, but the whole of the parcel is almost, you could say, being shrunk because the remnant is going to the neighboring parcel. So the developable area is being more defined by this application. And I believe if you look at the application, the size of the lot does not necessarily preclude ongoing access. It's just that as staff, that boundary between the two different parcels is already there, and it's not creating any change in the fact that that access is on a different parcel already. That needs permission from that neighboring property owner to be utilized. And I'm happy to answer questions if that needs clarification.
Anyone have a question? Terry?
I have a question. Mr. Leach, through the chair. You said you were offered the opportunity to purchase.
Correct.
But you refused at that time because
I didn't refuse.
you chose not
I
to.
chose not to based on the fact that the clerk of the Township of St. Vincent had said that that land would immediately be attached to my parcel and that there would be no severance granted. That was confirmed by the lawyer who executed the purchase of the property, of my property. And he happened to be, just so happened to be, the boundaries and fences dispute adjudicator for the province. So I assumed he knew what he was talking about. And Jim Foster was very, very clear as to whether a parcel could be severed off that land once it had been joined. Now, obviously there's a different interpretation here, and we're 25 years further on, but it is my understanding that farmland, 100 acres of farmland can only be divided 3 ways, 3 times. I'm just saying that what I believe. Now, should we now continue to allow severance? Does that make the original division of the 6 parcels legal, ethically, when it shouldn't really have been done in the first place, basically? And I think we all know that.
Terry, is that answered? Linda?
Okay, well, first of all, before I start asking my questions, we're not dealing with the driveway, right? The entrance?
So yeah, we see it as a separate issue than the severance
Right.
application.
Okay, but I'm confused, and I'll admit, I'm not a farmer, so when I'm looking at these different parcels,
Neither am I a farmer, by the way.
well, I think you were out in the bean field or something. the
No,
other
I
day.
have an expert behind me.
Okay,
I'm
so,
a UFT, so I wouldn't know anything about farming.
well, I live in the country, but I'm not a farmer. So what we're talking about, the severed parcel, and then on this one aerial photograph, it looks like the historical farm access is on part 4. of the map, which is to the east. Is that correct? So it's not on this severed parcel?
Yes.
So then, you're coming in that farm access, and then where are you going? To part 4, part 3?
Part 4. Do we not have a registered survey for all this land? I've got one for mine, but really you can't sort of go at it without a registered survey.
But I guess I'm confused because it doesn't look like that farm access is keeping you from getting then to part 4 with the severed property beside it. I don't know what I'm missing.
Only if you move that severed property, if that's what happens, 30 feet to the west, then that laneway, which would still be in the proponent's possession, could still be used by the farmer. They have an agreement. And we're talking 200 feet of laneway that's 30 feet wide. When I originally spoke to Kirsten, I said 20 feet, I believe. And then after I talked to Mr. Hare, he indicated that the equipment that goes down there, he needs more than 20 feet. He needs 30 feet. So that's why I suggested in my email to you and to Kirsten, 30 feet.
Okay, so just to follow up on that though, because the laneway has nothing to do with our decision, correct? That would then go to municipal transportation or to the owner?
Yeah, so the existing laneway, although it does, so the part 4, which is Mr. Leach's property, he accesses his farm across part 3, which is the applicant's property. But there's no legal agreement or easement in place saying that that is how part 4 should be accessed. So in our opinion, because it is an existing access that isn't legally established, the severance really has nothing to do with how that access issue is dealt with. In my opinion, the entire parcel, like part 3, could be sold now, and that new landowner could say, I don't want you using this access anymore. So I don't think the severance changes that at all.
You are quite correct in your last comment that a new owner of the whole parcel may very well say no. Up until this time and for the past 100 years, that hasn't been the case. In all the good spirit of neighbourliness and community, it's been allowed for the 8 minutes per year that farm equipment goes down that laneway. So, sorry.
Go ahead. Ed, did you have a question?
Actually, there's a man back at the
Yeah,
back
I
that's
know.
got his
He
hand up.
wants
I'm waiting to
talk,
hear
and
from him.
I'm waiting for this issue to be.
Okay.
to
No,
so
I
you
just-
didn't, okay. So there's a gentleman back here, if you'll just stay there, Mr. Leach. There's a gentleman back here who would like to speak, and I'm not sure whether it's to this point or what.
Yes, it is. I'm actually the owner of Part
Okay.
3, the
Could you identify yourself?
I sure can. Robert Misselbrook and my
Yes.
wife Mary, we are the owners of that piece of land.
Okay.
To Kirsten's point, this new lot line adjustment does not in any way affect that boundary line between our two properties. I'm not asking it to move. I'm leaving it where it's been since 1988, I believe, when this lot was first created, when all 5 parts, and then in 89 when the 6th one was. So this lot line is not being adjusted at all. It's the lot line between part 2 and part 3 that's being moved over to facilitate a 10 and a 20 and a 50-year reforestation program plan that I have in place with a forester. I have a terrestrial officer looking at the different types of flora and fauna, and it's about control of that. But it absolutely changes nothing about this laneway that we're talking about right now. My wife and I have possession and ownership of this property. We will probably maintain ownership. I talked to Ron not long ago about the fact that Mary and I went out there and we actually thought about potentially building on this little parcel. And now a family member's interested now that it's down that side. It's a little bit of a digression here, but what we're getting to is that that laneway in no way is being affected by this particular lot line adjustment. It's been there for 35 years. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there a year from now. I don't know how 25 years ago someone can say, you don't need to buy this land, but we're going to make sure that nothing ever happens on it. Like that's not how it works. That's not how it works at any legal level. So to whatever someone said from 25 years ago, I don't know what to say to that. There is a lot line there, and there's a current fence on that lot line between our properties. That lot line is there now. It's identifiable by rusted barbed wire posts. We have been gracious and good enough to both the owner and to the farmer to allow access. Ron and I had a conversation last week in which he said how happy he was that we were allowing the access. And I haven't one time said, you still can't have access. The only thing I really ever requested from these two guys, no payment, no nothing, was some form of a legal waiver saying that if Ron fell off his tractor or Andrew did something, that they wouldn't sue us. That's the only thing that I was asked of them, and Ron attested to that in our phone conversation. So at no point have I ever said to Andrew or to Ron, you're not getting access to this. So I'm kind of not sure where this is all coming from, but sorry to digress again, but to your point, no. As we're saying, this lot line is staying exactly where it is.
Okay.
May I answer that?
Go ahead,
Or may I
Mr.
make
Leach.
a comment on that? Now, it's just been admitted, and I was very surprised, that he already owns this property. If he owns this property, it should have been attached. Those are the rules, those are the planning rules. It should have been attached already. And so if it hasn't been attached, I question that. Now, with regards to him indicating, and that's very good of him to indicate that this laneway can still be used. He's never said that to me. He's never approached me about any of this. I wasn't aware of this whole thing until a week ago Friday when I opened my mail. And I didn't speak to Kirsten until last Wednesday, I believe, and sent you the email that she requested on the Thursday of last week. So that's news to me. He has never asked me for a waiver. I have no recollection of that conversation. I would be willing to have dealt with the waiver. No difficulties whatsoever. I don't actually use the laneway. It's only the farmer that uses the laneway. I'll correct that comment. I did have to call Bob 13 years ago when we were having a heating system, a geothermal heating system put in, and the only access was down that laneway for a hi-ho to come in and dig the field up. Because when they got to the field on the May the 1st of that year, which was the first day allowable to bring that heavy equipment down the side road, they realised they would do serious damage to Frogs Hollow, the surface of Frogs Hollow, if they took it off the flatbed onto the road and down through the gully. And they didn't want to be responsible for that.
Okay.
And I called Bob, and he graciously permitted them to take the hi-ho down the laneway and into my field so that we could perform that job.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess I tend to identify with this problem because for the first 20 years of my life, I lived in a house with a mutual drive in Toronto, so I know all the ins and outs. One of the things that I do have a question about, and maybe Margaret or Kirsten can answer this, and it may be a legal answer that you can't, is I personally don't understand what condition was Jim Foster speaking of when he said that there would be no severance on this property. I don't understand. Were there 5 already?
Yeah.
You don't know. There's no legal written down anything that says this.
I mean, I can't speak for the policies 25 years ago.
Oh, and I understand that.
Yeah, so I can go off what the current policies are, and that's what we're currently going off of.
I see. I guess the thing is, like, I know because I was on council in the early 90s, and I sort of know how things worked there. And so I know Jim Foster, so I know sort of what I'm trying to establish is anything written down, or is there, or is it that because this question's come up today, that we deal with it in terms of the law right now? That's the part I don't get, because I don't quite understand how somebody can say, because no, like when somebody, for example, buys a house and they say, well, nobody ever told me that a house could be built right behind my house. Okay, I'll just use that as an example. And I've always been told that you buy a piece of property and there are certain things that can happen, and you may lose your view in 25 years because there is a legally made lot. So I'm trying to understand the legalities, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to settle arguments. We're here to represent the people of the municipality and also the government of this municipality. So are we supposed to be dealing with this, or is it a situation in which it's beyond our kin, or what exactly, how does this work?
Could I just address that?
Go ahead.
This was an old 100-acre farm,
Yes.
divided into 6 parcels. I'm not sure Jim Foster was happy with that, but that's what the Township of St Vincent did. And there is a bylaw for each parcel.
Correct.
When amalgamation came, those bylaws, as I understand it, were rolled into the municipality and grandfathered.
I know that they were
not just, okay, it's now Meaford and it's something else. It was all part of, when it was rolled into the municipality, all the bylaws were rolled in and kept going.
okay. Kirsten and Margaret?
I think Margaret.
Yeah, okay, well, either one, you make a decision who wants to talk.
Through you, I think neither Kirsten or I can speak to a conversation that happened 25 years ago and know what was in that person's mind at that time. Unfortunately, sometimes we would really like to. And also, policies continue to evolve. The provincial policy continues to evolve, and then municipalities are obligated to then, well, the county then updates their policies, then municipalities update their policies at the local level. And things continue to evolve since amalgamation. Right now, we can only make recommendations based on the policy that is in force and effect at this time. There aren't any exceptions specific to this property that would suggest a carry forward from the past. That may have happened, for a version or two of the bylaw. I can't say for sure, but at this time, we can only make recommendations based on the zoning bylaw and official plan in force now.
Are you saying that currently a 100-acre farm can be divided into 6?
Go ahead.
There are very specific policies in both the county and municipality of Meaford official plans that speak to the number of lots that can be created. It depends on the original size, it's prorated, and then there are other constraints that may come in, whether a severance was because of a church or whether there's hazard lands. There's a lot of things to look at. In this particular case that we're looking at today, and I do have the 1988 plan if that would be at all helpful to the committee, but it does, and it does appear that there was one additional lot created after that. which would equal 6. So as I can't speak to the past policies, what I can say is that it appears there are 6 lots in that vicinity now, and there will continue to be 6 lots as a result of this application. There will not be an additional 7th lot from this application. It will continue to be 6 total.
Was there anything said about the, is there anything said about the farm lane? Because I know that the owner of the property does have the right to say, I don't want you on my property anymore. So is there any written understanding or anything like that about the farm lot lane? Go ahead, Margaret.
Staff are not aware of anything legally registered on title, and there is not anything in the zoning bylaw.
All right.
I would agree with that. As to the best of my knowledge.
It's always been a gentleman's agreement.
It's been a gentleman's agreement, a wink and a nod,
Yes.
and it's been going on for over 100 years.
Okay.
That's my comment on that.
So, sir, you wanted to add something?
Would that be okay?
Yes, it will be.
So I'm glad that Andrew is acknowledging the fact that we have given permission and we have had an agreement in place.
Verbal.
I beg your pardon?
Verbal?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But I would also like to say that this laneway that Andrew uses, or not Andrew, Ron uses to farm that land is quite a small parcel of land. 10 acres maybe, Ron?
What, the laneway? No, it's only 30 feet wide and...
No, not the laneway, the access to the farm field that you use there. The fields are divided in half.
That's 14, just over 14 acres.
So that one's 14 acres. So that's what we're talking about here, because there actually is access already off the 4th Side Road for this farm property.
No,
and I
there's
know
not.
he's shaking his head no. I have pictures of that farm, and if there is no access off of the 4th Side Road, how do those crops get planted and come off that field?
I can show you a topographical map.
Well, I've got pictures of the laneway right here, Andrew.
Yeah, I know.
So
This is
if you
becoming an
can't, so I asked, sorry.
There
hold
is
on
a
second.
creek that runs down the middle of the two
Exactly,
fields.
and it bifurcates your fields, right?
Yeah,
And you can't get access from one field to the other, is that correct?
Correct.
So how do the crops get in that front field then?
Down your lane.
Okay, I'm going to allow one more minute on this because this is turning into,
Yeah, but we're trying to
I-
establish a 100-year farm here, and we're talking 14 acres that he wants to use, and he's got 1,400 feet of road frontage and an access already in off the 4th Side Road.
No,
All he
that's-
has to do is ditch his creek.
okay.
Ditch the creek and culvert the creek, and you get access to his property. I don't see how that's got anything to do with a lot line adjustment.
That's where
Anyway,
I'm.
sorry.
Okay, now, Linda?
Okay, well, I think we've gotten way off track.
Yes, we have.
Because the laneway has nothing to do with the severance, right? For us.
Yes,
Nothing to
absolutely.
do with our decision, so.
So, yes, Lynn?
I just want to clarify one thing. So what we're doing is changing the size of Part 3? Have I got that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So in the future, can Part 2 be severed?
It cannot, no, there can't be an additional lot created here.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret?
Just based on our conversation to date, under the current policy.
Yes.
No further lots can be created.
Okay, thank you.
But there are 5 lots there now, which is 6,
Yeah.
which is more, okay.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Hare would like to say something.
Go ahead. Sir, Mr. Leach says that you wish to say something? Are you, no, the other gentleman, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know the gentleman's name. Yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. My name is Ron Hare. I am the tenant farmer of Part Lot 4, 2 parcels in that lot. Firstly, I'd like to make my comments with all due respect to Bob and Mary, and express my appreciation to them for allowing me to access that laneway for the years he's owned it, and I've been doing so for 33 years. I'm old. I remember and objected to the severance of this property in 1988, as did others. But for reasons of greed, tax revenue, it got approved. My concerns are twofold. Yes, access to Mr. Leach's property, and secondly, safety. It surprises me that the traffic department will let an entrance go into the proposed severed lot anywhere along that 450 feet, because it's dangerous. It's on a knoll. There's already been a fatality 1,000 feet or less from this entrance in the early 90s. Without going into a lot of detail, whatever you decide is the way it is. But what we're dealing with is trying to correct the sins that previous councils made in creating these 6 lots. It shouldn't have happened. It did. Now we have to live with it. But I'd like to think that we could mitigate some of those and minimize the safety risks and create entrances where necessary and where it is safe. Bob mentioned there's an entranceway into part of this parcel. It's non-functional for farming. I access that field through a neighboring property, which isn't shown here. The fact that there's knolls is dangerous. There's more traffic, as Andrew has mentioned, and should the severances go through, I would propose or suggest it be conditional on the entranceways having sightlines, visible and readily identifiable, and that the municipality assist, consider, approve putting in an entranceway into Part 4 where it's suitable. I thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. Is that not part of the process, is that they check the sightlines, Kirsten?
Yeah, so Transportation Services has done a site visit,
Yes.
and they've identified that based off of the proposed location of the severed parcel, there would be a safe entrance available based off of their standards that they use.
Okay. So when the driveway gets approved, then that's when this subject will come up.
Yes.
Has it been noted by someone that that's a concern, so that it can, if it comes up again, or it should be noted to the department?
Transportation Services has done up a form indicating that an entrance would be available to the severed property. And it'll be noted in the minutes that it's a concern.
Okay, that's Mr. Hare?
Where would that be? Do you know, or is it a concern of yours?
No, unfortunately, I wouldn't know.
Okay, there's 2 hands. Ed, you were first.
Well, my concern, again, is safety when you look at it, but if they're going to approve access for this lot line adjustment or parcel, then there should be access granted to Mr. Leach's property as well. That would be my only stipulation. Other than that, I have no objections.
Terry?
That was my question as well. Has Transportation Services agreed that there could be a safe access to Part 4?
No, that hasn't been looked at. It's a separate issue.
If I could comment, it makes a lot more sense further east on Part Lot 4 to put entrance. You got visibility 500 feet either way.
Thank you. Now, we've gone way off track. So,
Linda.
Linda,
Well, just a question to follow up with Ed's comment about the other entrance into the farmland. Do they not have to apply transportation for that?
Oh, yeah, like that
so-
isn't my concern. My concern is that.
Yeah,
they-
so they would be free to come to transportation and say they would like an
They'll have
entrance
to
in
do
there.
that, that's correct.
Right.
is there any other comment or question? Okay. Helena, would you provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of severance for consent application B2621?
So decision B26, 2021 will read, "The committee, in reviewing the subject application, determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved, subject to the following condition: that the retained parcel arising from the consent be permanently merged on title with the abutting lot to the west, and any mortgage on that lot be extended to the enlarged parcel."
May I have someone move? Linda Van Olst? And someone second? No one will second? Oh, Lynn will second? Okay. Are there any further questions or comments? No? Okay, because this is sort of a situation where one of the things that I get quite concerned about sometimes is we're not looking, far enough in the future, and this is the type of thing that 25 years ago, everyone said, oh, this will work out, don't worry about it. And then when it comes to today, we're thinking, well, we don't know what they were thinking. So that's why I get a little nervous sometimes when we're taking votes on this. So, you sure there's no questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Please explain what happens next, Helena.
Yep, so notice of decision will go out later on this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period for the application.
Thank you. The next meeting? This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 and an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding Plan 309, Lot 771, known municipally as 96 Margaret Street in the former town of Meaford, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The recommendation to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days' notice as prescribed by Section 53, subsection 5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days' notice.
This notice was published on September 8th, 2021, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you, Lynn. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
So application B2721 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land of approximately 375 square meters in size with approximately 18 meters of frontage on Margaret Street for the purpose of lot creation. The retained parcel of land with existing dwelling and garage will maintain an area of approximately 654 square meters with approximately 20 meters of frontage on Denmark Street and 32 meters of frontage on Margaret Street. Through pre-consultation with staff on the application, it was identified that the municipal sewer will need to be extended from Denmark or St. Vincent Street in order to service the severed parcel. The applicant has agreed to facilitate the required service extension. Therefore, a recommended condition of consent approval will be that a consent agreement is entered into and registered on title to ensure a sewer connection will be brought to the frontage of the proposed severed parcel to facilitate appropriate servicing of the new lot. Application A13, 2021 has been submitted concurrently to consent application B27, 2021, requesting relief from Table 6.2.1 of Zoning Bylaw 60, 2009, to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.6 meters, and to reduce the minimum required lot area of the R3 zone from 450 meters squared to 375 meters squared, in order to facilitate a new dwelling on the severed lot while maintaining the required front yard setback. Comments were received from Municipal Transportation Services. They noted that hydro services will need to be relocated to the east of the proposed lot to accommodate the new entrance. Gray County commented that provided the proposed parcel can be connected to municipal services, they had no concerns. Gray Sauble generally had no objections, as well as Bell Canada. And resident Chris Coleman noted his concerns about the cost of the road being dug up, as water and sewer services will need to be provided to the lot.
Thank you. Kirsten, do you have any further comments?
Yes, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So this property is designated urban living area by the official plan, which does support infill lot creation on full municipal services. As Helena's mentioned in her summary, in this case, it has been identified and discussed with the applicant that there is existing water service at the proposed severed parcel, but there's no sewer. Therefore, the sewer will need to be extended from either St. Vincent or Denmark Street at the owner's full cost. So we've recommended approval subject to the condition that the variance is approved, also concurrent to this application, and that a consent agreement is entered into and registered on title, which will specify all of the requirements of the applicant to extend the sewer service to the lot before development would be allowed to occur. In regards to the variance request, the application requests a reduction to the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.6 meters, and a reduction of the minimum lot area from 450 meters squared to 375 meters squared based on a draft survey that was completed. So we've identified in the staff report that the 375 meter square area of the proposed lot will not be out of character for the lots in the area, being that there are a number of existing lots of similar size. And in regards to the rear yard reduction request, we've identified that we expect sufficient rear yard amenity space can be provided behind the proposed attached garage, which includes a 6.2 meter setback from the rear lot line. We also note that the adjacent house to the north is sited closer to Denmark Street, which adds additional space between that existing house and the proposed new house on Margaret Street. Both adjacent properties to the east and west have accessory structures sited closer to the proposed rear yard of the new house, which will assist, in our opinion, with mitigating impacts on those adjacent neighbors in terms of backyard amenity space and privacy. And we believe that the 4 tests of a minor variance have been met with the variance request and are recommending approval subject to the condition that the proposed house is sited substantially as shown on the sketch provided with the application. Other than that, I think that's all I have for now, but I would be happy to address any questions.
Thank you. Does any member of the committee have a comment about their site visit or any comment about this proposal? Terry.
I'm curious that you have cited as part of the thought process that there are a number of existing lots that are smaller than 450 square meters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how many of those were after the bylaw established 450 square meters as the minimum in an R3 zone.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know how they were all created, so I can't answer when they were created, but that is a good question. I don't know.
The second part of that question is, has the Committee of Adjustment in previous years approved a lot smaller than 450 square meters after the bylaw was established?
I'd have to do some research into previous applications. I don't know.
That would be an interesting question.
And my final comment is we already struggled and had to have a variance approved for a house that was going on a lot that was 450, and they were still asking for variances. And my concern is, while we have a potential drawing and so forth, if we approve the severance, what's to stop them coming back and asking for additional variances? And the committee is then in a position where they would suddenly say, no, you can't. Just my thoughts.
Okay. Ed?
Yeah, through the chair. Terry's comments are bang on with what my thinking is, because we're asking for something here that's almost 20% in reduction.
Yep.
17.
17, is it? Okay. So when you drive by, it looks like a fairly tiny lot. I can certainly understand the owner's ideas behind it, I mean, in the housing market the way it is. But we're not asking for 4 or 5% here. It's almost 20%. That's a big lump to me. I don't know. That's my thinking.
Lynn?
Through the chair, didn't we have an issue with access to services on the Nelson Street? The last meeting we had about the one was losing its access to sewer.
Yeah, that one, that severed parcel never had access to sewer. I don't know, can you explain that further? Sorry.
Go ahead, Margaret.
If I can. So in this case, the existing house is serviced, and the new lot would also need to be serviced, because services are, so in this case, the created lot wouldn't have services unless required. It's existing there, and the pipes don't go down Margaret Street in front of that house.
But the issue with the Nelson Street was that we were severing it, and in order to sever it, the parcels had to have access to services before it could be severed. Is that correct? So now what you're saying is we don't have to have access to services?
If I might, they're so close that it is feasible for them to be, for it to be serviced, and the way that the recommended conditions are structured, it would have to be serviced or the deeds won't be stamped. So they would go into that's not 100%. They would have to enter into an agreement with the municipality regarding the plan to service the lots before the deeds would be stamped. And the wording in that consent agreement is very similar to the recommendations that were recently made for subdivisions in the municipality to ensure that they are also serviced. So under the Planning Act, the committee has the same authorities as the council does with respect to lot creation for a subdivision. So the entering into agreements to ensure these things occur is one of those opportunities that this committee has. So it could be called the subdivision agreement, but in this case, because it's only one lot, we're calling it a consent agreement, but with those specific clauses that are required to ensure that the design is appropriate for the services to come to the lot, and that the financing of it is 100% the obligation of the applicant or the future property owner.
Is that all right for you?
Well, I guess my issue is that when we were discussing this Nelson Street, one of a previous possible purchaser said that this town said, no, that lot can't be severed because access to services would not exist. And now we're saying it doesn't matter if access to services, so long as we enter into a consent agreement. Aren't we opening up a large can of worms here with that?
I think in this case, the applicant, we told the applicant that services aren't available, so we wouldn't be able to support the severance, and they went and talked to Environmental Services Department and discussed what would be involved in extending those services, and decided that that is something that's feasible for them, and that's something that they could do to sever this building lot. So in this case, yes, they're saying that it is feasible for them to do so, and the consent agreement being registered on title provides the municipality the assurances that that lot wouldn't be developed until those services are available to the lot.
Margaret.
I had a sentence and I lost it, but in terms of the essence, I think, is the same in that if services were not going to be provided, this will not be a building lot. So the opportunity exists in other places if someone is willing to go to the cost and expense to extend the services. I think in most cases, it's rare for someone to agree to do that for one lot. But in this case, they're on St. Vincent and on Margaret, so they're quite close, potentially. I think it's still quite a big expense, but that is something that the applicant has said that they're willing to do.
Through the chair, but I guess we're missing the point here is that services do not exist. So how can you sever off a piece if services do not exist? It's end, right there. That was the issue on the Nelson Street property before, is why we had this whole issue is because services did not exist.
I think that we're going ahead, try that sentence. The landowner is going to pay for the services to be put in. My question is, it's going to go back to you in a minute. You mean we're talking about services that are equal and acceptable to the municipality, or are they going to do? Okay, you carry on.
I guess it's just either yes or no. Are services available? Yes. Okay, fine. We can sever it. Never mind about the lot size, which is another whole issue. But services are not available, so it should not be allowed to be severed.
Let's carry on.
I guess
Are you
so.
finished, Lynn? Yeah. Okay, Linda?
But I guess it's all how you think about if services are available. I mean, the services aren't there to be hooked up, but they're available to be put there, right? That they can run them up. I guess it's a definition of what's available.
I guess.
Yeah.
No, Terry.
You know, I think the difference with Nelson Street, and I struggled exactly the same way you did, is there was no intention of extending the sewage services to that property because it was going to actually bypass a number of other properties that are already using septic systems. And those properties both had room for septic systems. This one certainly does not.
Okay.
Are there any further questions by the committee? Okay. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. And this is where...
It's your
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I've been keeping an eye out for you. Please, if you could, or if you wish, you can sit where Mr. Leach was sitting. Could you possibly bring the microphone down for
A little closer?
Yeah, could
No,
could
you're
I
good
get
there.
somebody
Good,
down
you're
here to
good.
help her?
You're
You're
good.
good.
We can hear you.
It's all, it's good.
Is it all right? Okay.
Okay. Oh.
You're gonna buy us all supper.
A little short, thank you. Thank you for, I'm sorry about coming on soon. I can't hear that well on all the dialogue, but my name is Dina Lewin. I live at 128 Margaret Street. And I received this notice of a public meeting on Monday. And I thought, well, I'd better come and look into this. My property goes, it's the corner of Margaret and St. Vincent. I have 98.5 feet of frontage on Margaret, which puts the end of my lot right on St. Vincent. I've been up and down looking for this vacant parcel of land, which is shown here on a diagram, and I can't find it. I can't see a piece of land that appears to be vacant in this location. However, my major concern is the sewage extension. In 97, operations were, I think they were putting in a new sewer line along Margaret. Barry Gilway was the head of operations at that time. And there was a problem, and the sewage, I had a major sewage backup into my basement from the road. How it happened, I'll never know. But it was catastrophic, as you can well imagine.
Yes.
And now I'm very nervous. Barry Gilray was outstanding, and he contacted George Wyville immediately, who was the plumber in the area, and they had addressed it right away. But there was a whole backhoe, and what a disaster. This appears that if it would be going along Margaret Street and St. Vincent, it would be almost adjacent to my property. I also have the creek. It's a pie-shaped lot, and the creek runs directly behind my house. So that's always an area of consideration, especially in weather like this. So I do have water behind. I certainly wouldn't want to live through another epic situation with a sewer backup. What are the guarantees that putting in an extension so apparently close by could be a liability?
Okay, let's get this answered. Who wishes to answer this question? Or is it, okay, Kirsten?
I would just say that if the sewer were to be extended, it would have to be up to all municipal standards, and it would be done in partnership with, well, not partnership, but the municipality would take a big part in making sure that it happens how the municipality would do it.
Is it going to be like when people build roads that they maintain ownership for a year and then the municipality takes it over, or does the municipality take it over right from the beginning?
I unfortunately don't know.
Okay, then, so, I mean, God forbid that something happens like this backup. If we go ahead with this and the owner puts the sewer in, what happens? Linda?
Well, it does say in our notes here that the extension is going to come from the sewer on Denmark Street. So that's at the other,
Denmark or Margaret.
It says
it does.
Denmark.
I think they were going to.
It does say somewhere.
I don't know where it's coming from.
oh,
Yeah,
Like right through, maybe.
so this has not been determined where it's going to come from.
it says on page 7, just Denmark.
Okay. I don't know whether or not this is the preview of this committee, but I would like to sort of make sure that somebody can answer that shortly.
That would be a great question for Rob Armstrong.
Yes.
And we could definitely follow up on that if that is something that the
Well,
committee
if
would
we-
like to
if
hear.
we,
More
if-
information about the extension.
If we go ahead with this severance now, we don't have any leverage in determining that answer.
Yeah, we could get more information about like what all would be involved for the sewer extension. If
Should we be
wanted-
delaying this
If we
vote?
wanted to maybe recommend deferral?
Or is that within our,
That's, yep.
how does anybody feel about delaying it until we get an answer to this? Or is this really something we should be dealing with? Linda?
I don't really think that the extension falls under us. I mean, it was horrible. I know it happened to my daughters, that type of thing happened with the backup, but I think that's up to the municipality, to those services, Rob Armstrong, and to make sure that that doesn't happen. And it does not say in these notes about anything coming from St. Vincent, just Denmark.
Is that right?
But on page 78,
Yes. So,
Yeah.
is there different information? There's
So-
different.
From my understanding, Environmental Services, I have not heard from them where the extension would need to come from, either St. Vincent or Denmark. So that could have been a mistake in the report, and I apologize for that. But yeah, we could get more information if we wanted, but I do think that the municipality would not allow service extension unless it was done up to municipal standard.
Ed, do you have a question? So, do you want to delay it or not? If you don't want to delay it, that's fine. I'm just making that an option. Okay, what is our advice for our ratepayer? Is it to make an appointment with Rob Armstrong, or is it to?
I can certainly follow up with Rob, and did you sign in? Yeah, so did you sign in on the sign-in sheet out front? I did. Okay, and your phone number? I will follow up with Rob Armstrong, who's our Director of Development Services, and I will get answers for you and follow up with you. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Excuse me, could you use the
Yes.
microphone because I can barely hear you? Go ahead.
She's not sure where the lot is.
Okay, carry on.
So if you think
Yes.
it's labeled as the sewing house, and from Denmark, it's the house, and then the garage, and then there's a vacant parcel of land with couple of very large trees on it. That's why it doesn't appear as a
Large trees.
Yes.
Okay. And the house is actually on Denmark Street that you're talking about?
It's at the corner of Denmark and Margaret, but the entrance is off Margaret.
Okay.
Okay, Margaret,
I'll have another look because I'm going home now.
okay. Could you, Margaret, you have a comment to make?
If if you're okay with me approaching you, I do have photos of the site on my
Yes, go
phone
ahead.
that I can show you where it's
Can I have a
located.
look?
So,
I like to have these questions answered before they leave, however.
there's a white house on the corner of St. Vincent and Margaret Street.
Oh, I know it.
And
I know
then,
it. Yes.
this is the location. Oh, let me just,
It'll be her, that's the corner
here
of
we go.
Denmark.
So there's a hydro
Or
pool
St.
between
Yeah.
the Denmark Street and St. Vincent Street. And that hydro pole is
Right in the
almost
middle of
the
the lot.
middle of the proposed lot.
Okay.
And then the house on the corner is right there. So it's got a little sign that says the sewing.
I know it.
Yeah.
It's on the same side as I am. And the lot is where?
Where the hydro pole is, that would be
So
about
it's a
the
very
center.
small lot, very
It is
small,
a-
isn't it?
It is a smaller lot.
So it's on the same side as me, and I'm just across the other side of St. Vincent.
Okay, so you're on, if you're across the street from this White House? That's
Yes,
on the
I'm
corner?
on I'm on the other side of this house, the other corner, and my lot goes right to St. Vincent. And I have, as I say, I have 98 feet frontage.
So if I might, you're the northeast corner,
Yes,
or we can look that up anyway.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And I can share this one.
okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone, oh, are you finished, or you have more questions?
Well, that's my concern.
Okay, and Kirsten said that she would look into that and make arrangements for you to get some serious answers or an appointment with Robert or whatever,
Yep.
Yes.
okay?
All right. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll go and see what my doctor said.
Yeah,
I think we need a motion to defer.
okay, is there anyone, excuse me, is there anyone virtually waiting to speak? Does anyone else have a question? These people? Okay, could you come to the microphone and speak? Would you like to hear what this gentleman has to say?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Madam Chair and members, good afternoon. My name is Paul Fairley. I'm the son of the owners, and just to...
You can take your mask off to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The son of the owners, and just to clarify, this isn't really about a speculation in the lot. I know the lot is a little bit smaller than required. Before going through the process of applying, we did find a number of lots in the area that were of a similar size, which gave us the confidence to put all the effort into this, going into today. The services, as mentioned by Kirsten, those will be fully financed by us. And we've agreed to enter into that contract that limits the title transfer itself. And before doing so, actually, I spoke to a developer friend of mine who hasn't operated in Meaford, but in many other municipalities, and he made a point that's a regular occurrence. If the services are available, in theory, and that you're willing to fund them, then it shouldn't be a problem. And I hope it isn't a problem here in Meaford. About variances, we would not be asking for any more variances. I did go on record today saying so. The variances that we've asked for are just with the lot size itself as a prerequisite, and then the rear yard variance is all that we'd be asking for. The house would be a two-story with the measurements that we have on that. Those are rough measurements, but we could be just in line with those, and with the builder on a two-story house, we'd be quite happy with the interior size that we can get away with in that. The sewer itself, just to clarify again, we don't have the actual supplier, although the builder is already acknowledged that he would be involved in that process to ensure that we are employing obviously someone that knows what they're doing to make sure that we don't have any issues, and that we'd also be responsible that those are completed to municipal standards. And that's my feedback for today. Hope it
Any
helps.
other questions for Mr. Fairley while he's standing at the microphone? Ed?
Mr. Fairley, you mentioned that you found some lots in the area that were of similar size to what you're asking for. When were those lots created, do you know?
I'm not sure. Actually, the one though, it's a newer build, only a couple years old. It's pardon, I don't have the address. It's on Denmark, south of Margaret on the west side. Raised bungalow, 2-car garage. I'm not, that lot there, actually the builder that we're talking to built that house. And he himself said he didn't give me the measurements, but he said it was in line with the same size. I don't know if that lot was previously severed.
Probably
It was
an
just
old
a vacant lot.
Yeah.
But there's a, I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
In the
Oh, St.
19...
Vincent, sorry, not Denmark, St. Vincent.
Thank you.
See, in the 1990s, I believe it was, that the minister came up and stopped all severances in Grey County for quite some time because some of the severances were, as she said, about as big as, like, not too big. And so as a consequence, I know that there are some severances that are quite small. Kirsten?
Maybe for context, there is a zone in the bylaw called the R4 zone, which mainly applies to newer subdivisions, but that lot area is permitted at 330 square meters, just based on current building standards. Just for context for the committee, if that is helpful at all.
Okay. Terry?
Mr. Fairley, if I understand it correctly, you are going to be the owner of the house that is being built on this lot.
Yes, correct.
And you are buying that from your parents or your in-laws? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
my parents.
Would your parents be willing to give up their garage such that the lot could be larger and meet the standard of 450?
We had that conversation and it didn't go quite well. Our plan
Good luck
is
at Christmas.
I plan on moving my family up here. I live in Barrie. I have a house in Barrie I want to sell, and I'm very eager to get out of the city. But to answer that, I don't know. I mean, that's maybe you can nudge, but I don't think so.
It sounds like it would have been a good topic for conversation over Thanksgiving dinner. Yes. So, anyone else ask a question? Okay, thank you. Have you got, oh, sorry, go ahead.
In the event of a mishap, whether it's the town, municipality operations department, or an independent builder, who is liable? Who is responsible for any mishap?
So,
With what I went through.
now my understanding of what you were asking is who holds the liability if anything should happen during the process? Yes. Okay, Kirsten?
I'm going to follow up with you on that. That's what I've written down. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like that's a good a conversation that you should be included. Can we sort of make sure Mr. Fairley's in the loop?
From what I'd imagine, that would be, well, I mean, I'd be secondary to that, but the actual construction company doing the work would likely be liable, and, that's part of their insurance policy and all that stuff. I mean, I'd imagine.
Well, we'll find out. Well, as I said, maybe Mr. Fairley should stay in the loop so that he knows what's going on too, because if he's liable, then he might want to know that. That's good. Okay, is that all right with you? Okay. Any other comment? Is there a virtual?
Okay.
Thank you. Good day. Is there a virtual question? No? Okay. Helena, would you please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of the variance? You can sit down if you want now. I didn't mean to leave you standing there.
Yep, so the variance and the consent will need to be voted on separately. So to begin with the minor variance. So decision A13, 2021 will read, being that the four tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves the variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from table 6.2.1 of bylaw 60-2009 as amended to A, reduce the minimum required lot area of the R3 zone from 450 meters squared to 375 meters squared, and B, reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.6 meters, subject to the following condition: that the proposed dwelling be sited substantially as shown on the site plan submitted alongside minor variance application A13, 2021.
Okay, may I have someone move that, please? Linda Van Olst. Second? No seconder?
Well, I'll second the motion, yeah.
Okay. Ed will second the motion. Okay. Are there any further comments or questions at this time? Lynn,
I don't think I can support,
could you come closer?
yeah, I don't think I can support this small size lot.
Thank you.
I just want to make it clear, I can't either. I just second the motion to make the motion so we
Yes.
could vote, yeah, so.
Does anybody wish for this motion to be delayed? As opposed to going down, possibly? Linda?
Well, I don't think there's any reason to delay it. And to my thinking, it's all part of the official plan for infilling of lots. And if it is the size of what would be allowed in a subdivision, I don't really see the difference between filling in on a street than filling in a subdivision. So I don't think if it can't be, if others can't support it, there's no point delaying it.
Okay.
It's
So somebody's, okay, I'm going,
soon.
Terry?
To me, it's a little bit different because we're looking at creating a new lot as opposed to a subdivision where all the lots are laid out and they're approved at a smaller size. And so I'm wondering if, first of all, we haven't made a mistake in terms of which one we handled first. You know, in my mind, we should have been dealing with the severance first before we look at what's going to go on the lot.
Do you folks want to switch the motions or what?
Well, I don't think you can have a variance on a lot that doesn't
That
exist
doesn't
yet.
exist, that's right.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you.
I don't know.
I can read it, the decision for the severance then. If you'd like
Well,
to
just
vote
one
on that
moment.
first.
So you're saying that you want, the severance has to go first?
I think so.
I would think, you can't have a variance on a lot.
Okay, I'm looking at people, Ed, Lynn, and Terry are nodding their heads. Linda? Please.
So since we already have the motion on the floor, then, does it need to be deferred?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because it's on the floor,
I see,
right?
Yes, it is.
So defer this for 5 minutes?
Can I
we do
call
that?
Okay,
Yeah.
then, but we have to have a vote on deferring the motion. So,
I'll move that we defer the motion.
okay, Linda's moving to defer the motion. First,
Second that.
and Lynn will second the motion. Okay, is there any discussion on deferring the motion? Margaret, are you about to say something?
I was just going to clarify that it's just being deferred for a few moments
Yes.
until the other motion.
That's right.
All in favor of deferring the motion? Okay. It's been deferred.
So it's been deferred. So, okay, so decision B 27, 2021 will read, the committee in reviewing the subject application determined them to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, consent application B 27, 21 is approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford, specifying that the applicant shall A, acknowledge and agree that no development shall occur on the lands until such time as municipal water and municipal sanitary services are available to the lands, and that there is available capacity to accommodate the use. B, be responsible for any and all costs associated with the drafting and registration of the agreement to the satisfaction of the municipality. C, design and construct/install at no cost to the municipality the sanitary sewer systems and all appurtenances thereto as required to service the new lot to the satisfaction of the municipality, which shall include, but not be limited to, the cost for any peer review and inspections of the work and any necessary approvals or agreements. D, detailed design of any water or sanitary services shall be to the satisfaction of the municipality with any necessary approvals of the MECP. E, costs of service installation or upgrades attributable to the development either on or off-site will be borne by the developer. And 2, payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication for the severed lands. And 3, that minor variance A1321 is approved and the appeal period has passed with no appeals.
Okay, may I have a mover and somebody to second? No one's moving?
Well, I'll move again.
Okay, Linda.
I can second it.
And Ed will second? Okay. Any comments or questions?
I cannot support such
Okay,
a
Linda?
small lot
Lynn,
size.
sorry. Is it because of the size?
It's the size of the lot. I understand about the subdivision, but
Yes.
Terry had a point, that subdivision, it's all uniform, and that is expected. When you buy the house, everybody is in the same boat. This one, yes, it speaks to infill, but it's way below the bylaw. And the bylaws were put in place for a reason.
Terry?
I'm not sure that I heard when you read the decision, whether it included the approximate size of the severed parcel, because that is my objection,
Is the size?
is the size of the lot.
So it does not include the size of the parcel?
It should be, because I think that's the issue that we are having.
The actual decision sheet that you signed does include the size of the lot, and that's what we will be referring to when we,
Okay. But for the purposes of voting, it should be in there, in my mind.
okay, we can have that up.
Linda?
So, I'm looking at the information here, and it says there are a number of other lots in the area that are around that size. And I don't know when they were built, but that's kind of set a precedent then. If they're infilling, and there are already some that size, then I don't know how we can say no.
I think the bylaw came into place after those lots
Depends when
were
they were
created.
created.
Those other lots maybe were created 50 or 60 years ago.
Well, true.
This, by definition, this is not infilling because we are creating the lot to be filled. If it was vacant now, to me, that would be a different issue.
The lot was already there.
Yeah.
The lot was already there.
Does it, I'm asking this question because I don't know. Does it make a difference that somebody's family is part of this decision, like, because it's your parents, right?
I'm sorry.
Does
for
that make a difference?
I did recognize that, and I apologize for that, but we're setting a precedent.
Yeah, I think so too.
Unfortunately, we can't vote with our hearts.
Yes, unfortunately.
I'm just going to look at what the lot coverage was.
Well, Kirsten,
So I get what everybody is saying, and you're concerned about creating a lot that's under what the bylaw says, but I think we've just, in our opinion as staff, it does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance, other than the rear yard setback, obviously. The side yard setbacks can be met. They're showing that they can create a lot of this size where they can put a house on it under the 40% lot coverage in the bylaw. So they're proposing a 34% lot coverage. So it will actually be a smaller house on a smaller lot than what the bylaw does permit. So I think we've evaluated against the 4 tests of a minor variance, which is why the variance process is there. It meets the intent of the bylaw and the official plan, and is minor in nature in impact on adjacent properties in terms of the smaller lot in an area where there are already smaller lots. I would just add that.
Terry.
Through the chair. My question then becomes, where do you draw the limit? To me, the limit should not be that the house meets the standard that it's below the 40% of lot size, because all of a sudden, I can put a tiny house on a lot that's half that size and sever it again. I think we have a standard, and there is reasons for the standard. It's been changed, I'm sure, over time. And I think we have to be really careful that all of a sudden everybody in Meaford doesn't want to sever off a portion of their lot simply because they have, and I'm sorry, that they have a relative that wants to move here. I really think we're setting a precedent if we do this.
Does everyone wish to vote now? Is there any further comment? Okay, for one moment.
The lot itself being a smaller lot, the house size itself is actually probably in line with sort of the medium to like larger square footage than you'd see in the area. So it's certainly not on the smaller spectrum of homes. We're looking at about a 2,000 square foot home and a two-car garage, which a lot of homes in the area, in fact, my parents' home next door isn't quite that large. I guess, but to your point, it certainly would fall within the lot size itself, and being in a reduced lot, the house still falls within the bylaw of the size that it can be, and being uniform with the community.
But where do you draw the line? If you suddenly go with a smaller house, can I now put that on a smaller lot? And because I would maintain the maximum coverage.
It's up to you as a committee.
And that's our challenge.
But hopefully that it is uniform with the rest of there are other lots. There's a large number of them in the area that are similar. So, where do you draw the line? I think it's within what fits character. Anyway, I digress.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kirsten.
I don't know if this is an option that the committee would like to consider, but Margaret thinks that there is potential maybe we defer a decision on the law creation and the variance until building plans are available, showing what will go there, to make sure it fits in with the area. I don't know how you feel about that. And information on the servicing. My
thoughts on that is, I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Fairley will build a beautiful home on their lot, but almost a 20% reduction in the lot, I'm just not comfortable. It's just the way I think. It's setting precedent, just as Lynn said, and that's my feelings.
Does anyone wish to defer it?
No.
I need 3 people to say no. Does anyone wish to defer it?
No.
Linda?
Well, I just have a question through you to Kirsten. If we were to defer it, is it possible to find out the history of the other smaller lots? When they were created? Were they created 20 years ago? Were some of them created 3 years ago?
I could certainly look into it. I do think they're probably created a long time ago, but I can definitely look into it. We could add that in if that was something that you wanted to find out.
Wouldn't that have come before the Committee of Adjustment?
Yeah, any severance.
So, no, not in the past 8 years.
Okay, so the Committee of Adjustment has not approved one of these in the last 8 years, is what you're asking,
As far as
right?
I know.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
Because what I'll tell you what I'm thinking, and what I think is that we're here to judge and to vote on a variation to the law. That's why it's come to the Committee of Adjustment. The one thing that's going through my mind, and maybe it's more of my heart than my head. I'm thinking about a house in Bognor. I know Bognor is not downtown Meaford, but I'm just making this point. And we have a house on that lot, and we don't have sewers or water or anything. We have a well, there's a well and a system to deal with septic. And it's been there forever, and just sold for nearly $300,000. And I'm thinking they've got septic and sewer, they've got water and sewer on this property. So I'm just thinking that I can visualize the house. Now, I do understand where you're coming from, but that's where I'm coming from. I'm thinking that it's possible, but I think that if it's family-owned, it's much like a farm, that I don't know if you have relatives who will be inheriting this or whatever, but that's where I'm coming from. Terry? Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'd be willing to defer
Yes?
a decision on this till the next meeting to give the planning department adequate time to find additional justification or rationale that we as the committee should consider.
And you folks can still say no.
I didn't make a motion, I
No,
just
but you
said
can.
it.
Right?
Say that again.
If someone makes a motion to defer, right now it's deferred,
Yes?
correct? I'll
Correct.
make that motion. To defer it till the next meeting.
Okay, so we'll just have to make sure we have the wording for the decision.
And I don't know the size of the lot in Bognor, but I'm going to find out. I'll go with my tape measure.
So defer until the next
Deborah.
committee
It doesn't
meeting.
matter. Okay.
Whoa.
It could have been
Giving the
created
planning
100
department
years ago.
time,
I know.
Yeah.
I understand that, and that is what my concern is
give us more
we are here
justification, I
to-
guess.
to
Provide more
make a decision on a
justification.
variance
That's
to the
correct, Terry?
lot, so we
Or I
have
didn't
to,
hear what you,
Just to
Sorry.
give us some more justification.
yeah,
that-
additional
I can go along with
information
that.
that would
Yeah.
be relevant to the decision.
Yeah.
and we can't guarantee that it will make a difference,
We can't.
but
No.
we'll leave it open, because otherwise, if we say no, then this is a quasi-legal committee, and if we say no, then you have to go to the province and deal with it, and that's when lawyers, et cetera, are involved. And so what we're trying to do is be as fair as possible, to leave it open for 1 month and see what the planning department comes up with, or whatever, maybe you should have a meeting with Kirsten or whatever to speak about it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it again. I'm going to say right now that I would guess that it's going to be a no, but I think that we should give the planning department the opportunity to speak on your behalf and make sure that everything is covered. I want to be totally fair. Okay? Is this going to affect plans or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were hoping to be able,
Another comment about drawings and plans. I mean, that's like a $30,000 investment. You can't make it. See, that's why we went through the process of having both submitted today.
yes.
To give you a very good idea of the actual footprint, which won't change. And then, you know, the elevation of that, obviously, that needs to be determined, but that footprint is what we would be doing.
Okay. But what we're saying is we're going to defer it instead of say no in order to see if there's, if, I see that some of the members are saying no, but I would like to make sure that it's the right thing to do. Okay? That's right.
Yeah.
So we're deferring it, and we'll go from there. Very quickly, please. Just a minute.
Just say too that our lot for us is a very awkward lot because in fact we're talking about severing, there's another side of our driveway. Now, had
Sorry, could you
Yeah,
come
I
up to the
can't, I can
mic?
barely hear you.
Because we are broadcasting YouTube, everything does need to go to the microphone when we respond.
I just wanted to say that our lot, as it stands right now, is actually quite an awkward lot.
Yes.
Had our house been built on facing Denmark Street, we would have gone straight back. But we're on Margaret Street with a driveway and then this other piece that we're wishing
Yes.
to sever. So it's kind of unique in that way. It's not like we're just, you know, we're not setting a precedent, hopefully, that people will just decide to sever wee chunks of land. Like, this is an awkward piece for us.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the decision's been made. We have one more meeting.
We've got to vote
Sorry.
on it.
You have to vote
Oh,
on the motion.
I thought Linda just had to ask for it.
Yeah, I don't
to
think
be-
you have to vote on a deferral. If somebody defers it, it's
Okay.
done.
You want
I
to
think.
vote on it, just in
No.
case?
You should.
I think you just say it, but
Yeah.
I would like to cover all bases.
The agreement that the
Has to be
committee
agreement.
agrees to defer it.
Okay,
Or have to
we are
cancel.
going to,
As soon as somebody deferred it, it was done.
no,
But,
we're going to,
Yeah,
okay,
you should
vote.
vote.
What- We're going to vote on it, okay? We need a seconder then.
Second.
Okay, Ed, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. That's been passed, so it's going to be deferred for 1 month. Okay, the last meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding Concession 8, Part Lot 26, Reference Plan 16R-3089, Part 2, known municipally as 139087 Great Road 112, in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days' notice as prescribed by Section 53, subsection 5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days' notice.
This notice was published on September 8th, 2021, giving more than the required 14 days' notice.
Okay, thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
So application B 2821 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land of approximately 2.75 hectares in size with approximately 95 meters of frontage on Gray Road 112 for purpose of lot creation. The retained parcel of land with existing dwelling and accessory structures will maintain an area of approximately 16.4 hectares with approximately 218 meters of frontage on Gray Road 112. Comments were received from the Municipal Building Department, who noted that there is record of an existing septic system on the lands and that there are no concerns at this time. Grey County provided comments, provided that MDS can be achieved for the severed parcel, that road widening of 5.18 meters is undertaken for portions of the severed and retained lands, that the applicant applies for the relevant entrance permit, and that positive comments are received from the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority regarding the significant woodlands and stream. The county had no further concerns. And then Grey Sauble is of the opinion that if further development is set back 120 meters from the significant woodland feature to the east of the lot and 50 meters from the significant woodland feature to the south of the lot, and site alteration and development takes place outside of the breeding bird nesting season, negative impacts to the above noted natural heritage features will be minimized. They recommend that the appropriate sediment and erosion control measures should be applied throughout the development works and recommend consulting with the Ministry of Environmental Conservation and Parks to confirm any potential requirements. And then finally, Bell Canada had no objections to the application.
Thank you. Kirsten, are there any additional comments regarding the file?
Thank you. I was just going to speak to the conditions that we've recommended and just note that it's a rural designated parcel by the official plan. The lot creation has been shown to meet all of the lot creation policies for the rural designation.